Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're literally putting on our forensic detective hats to investigate one of the most infamous, mind-bending puzzles in human history. I'm talking about the Voynich manuscript, also known as MS-408. For 6 whole centuries, this bizarre, beautifully illustrated text has baffled the greatest cryptographers, linguists, and historians on the planet. But what if the reason we haven't cracked it isn't because the code is too complex, but because we've been using the entirely wrong toolkit? Today, we're diving into a fascinating new approach called the Fontana-Luth method, and it completely flips the script on how we view this 600-year-old mystery.
So it really begs the fundamental question, right? Why has this manuscript remained completely unsolved for 600 years? I mean, World War II codebreakers, supercomputers, brilliant linguists, they've all taken a swing at it, and every single one hit a dead end. Well, the reason, according to this new research, is actually surprisingly simple. Scientists have consistently hit false leads because they're searching for traditional linguistic words. They're trying to read it like a standard language, hunting for nouns, verbs, and phonetic sounds. So the crucial point here, the real aha moment, is that this 600-year mistake has been treating the manuscript as a linguistic document. The massive breakthrough perspective of the Fontana-Luth method is that this is absolutely not a linguistic puzzle. No, it's a mathematical and geometric one. Those strange, flowing, almost alien-looking letters, they aren't actually letters at all. They're coordinates. They form a visual map. Okay, let's map out exactly how we're going to crack this geometric code together. First, we'll look at the mystery of character strings. Then, the logic of character doubling. After that, we'll dive into the 3 core steps. Step 1, marking fixed points. Step 2, determining angles. And Step 3, matching star shifts. Finally, we'll wrap up with opening the scientific door. All right, Section 1, the mystery of character strings. Let's introduce our first major paradigm shift in this forensic investigation. I want you to really absorb this quote from the research. It says, "We don't have text in front of us, but strings of characters that carry purely geometric information." Think about that for a second. The creator of this method views these symbols as pure, unfiltered carriers of coordinate data. If you stop trying to sound out the symbols in your head and instead look at them as a blueprint or a mathematical map, man, the entire manuscript begins to look completely different. Moving on to Section 2, the logic of character doubling. This addresses a massive initial question about the text structure. You see, you'll often notice complex geometric signs repeating right back to back in the manuscript. Now, why is that? Well, it brilliantly illustrates a standard historical principle. In medieval administrative writing and in classical abbreviation books like the famous Capelli Index, doubling a character is literally the most common way to form a plural. It's a mechanical, brilliantly simple logic. A single symbol stands for the singular, like, for example, causa, meaning the reason. But if you slap 2 identical symbols right next to each other, it immediately screams to the reader, plural, causae, the reasons. So we're not looking at some sloppy scribe's mistake or useless repetition here. The geometry is simply doubling to indicate a plural. And this is huge because it proves we're dealing with a highly logical, systematic code, not just someone's random fantasy scribbles. Okay, so now that we know there's undeniable logic at play, how do we actually decode the geometry? This is where the rubber meets the road. The Fontana-Luth method relies on 3 highly visual mechanical steps to measure these angles. Step 1, mark fixed points. Step 2, determine angles. And Step 3, match star shifts. It's a tactile, manual craft that anyone can wrap their head around, even without prior cryptographic knowledge. Let's walk through these 3 concrete steps one by one. Which brings us to Section 3, Step 1, marking fixed points. Let's get our hands dirty with the first tactile step of our forensic process. To decode this geometry, just look at a single isolated glyph. On its own, a single point means nothing. But what we do is isolate prominent points. Specifically, where did the scribe change direction, or start, or lift the pen? Marking these dots gives us a little cloud of dots. Together, whether you mark them manually on foil or do it digitally, they form a fixed pattern. It's exactly like mapping out a constellation in the night sky. Next up, Section 4, Step 2, determining angles. This is the crucial mathematical step where we draw our lines. Now, what's really interesting here is how we make sense of those constellation points. Think of these lines exactly like a compass. A full circle is 360 degrees, right? East is 90 degrees, south is 180 degrees, and west is 270 degrees.
By thinking in terms of this 360-degree compass, we reveal an invisible grid hidden right on the page. We basically draw straight lines from a central starting point out to the other points on our map. For example, if you draw a line and the system measures that angle at 266.91 degrees, we know mathematically that this line is pointing almost exactly south. It's incredible. These specific angle measurements prove mathematically that the scribe wasn't just randomly doodling. The points follow an invisible, unchanging circular grid. The angles give the lines a firm, unchangeable direction.
And now for the grand finale. Section 5, Step 3, Matching Star Shifts. Let's see how taking our measured star map and overlaying it changes everything.
Let's look really closely at this interface, because this is the digital vector scanner in action. Notice that red main point at the top and the lines coming down to those 3 green anchor points? The scanner is actively measuring the angles. You can see it reading 230.40 degrees, 291.93 degrees, and 266.91 degrees. What we do next is take this measured star map and basically slide it like a stencil over known historical Latin characters or medieval abbreviations from that Capelli index we mentioned earlier. We don't guess. We purely verify optically and mathematically if the angles and lines perfectly overlap the skeleton of a known abbreviation. Here, the scanner is showing a match for the abbreviation QUE or QUIA. The researcher compares this process to a biometric face scan at passport control. It's pure, measurable, geometric coordinate matching.
But hey, we have to be realistic here. This manuscript was written by a human hand 600 years ago. Quills scratch the parchment, and human hands naturally tremble, right? So we obviously don't expect a 100% perfect robotic match. And that's where the tolerance range comes in. The system allows for a tiny 3 to 5 degree deviation from the main axes to account for those natural historical variations. If the angles fall within this strict but forgiving microscopic window, the system confidently snaps into place. It locks onto known medieval abbreviations like con, cum, or qui. It's a rigorous scientific safety net that accounts for human biology while keeping the mathematical integrity totally intact.
Finally, Section 6, Opening the Scientific Door. Let's talk about what this means for the future of the manuscript.
You know, the creator of this method is incredibly humble about the sheer scale of this project. They state, "I don't claim to have solved anything. I just want to say I have opened the door a crack. The work is simply too big for a single person." And that's absolutely crucial to remember. This explainer isn't outlining a fully finalized, 100% translated Voynich manuscript. It's outlining a newly opened door. True research documentation includes dead ends and requires massive collective scientific effort. The creator is genuinely pleading for the community to collaborate, test the system, and truly understand the geometry. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought. Are we finally ready to step through that door and decode history together? The Fontana-Luth method has literally given us a completely new, mathematically sound compass to navigate a 600-year-old mystery. No more looking for spoken words, just pure, measurable, biometric geometry. I highly encourage you to look at the angles, test the tolerance ranges, and see the invisible grid for yourself. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and, as always, keep questioning the impossible.